a hopefully final video on the strawberry jam that I'll be faffing around with. So I'm going to bring everything, all the videos that I've made and all the jam that I've made. I'm going to compile all that knowledge and faffing into the jam. So got about 2 kilos worth of strawberries. They're from the market. They were, at the end of the day, they were cheaper. So there might just be one or two that aren't just kind of perfect, that need a little bit of looking at, but they look like they're mostly, that's like this one here. That one's not looking so good, but the rest of them look fine. So I'm going to use a quarter of them, and the quarter that I use are going to be the smaller ones, and the ones that are, if there's anything salvageable on that, I'll use that. So we'll pick out a quarter of them, a quarter of the weight of whatever we've got, and we'll make some jam out of that, and then we'll use the rest of, and then we'll add, that will be the base jam that we use, and then the rest of the strawberries will be the big strawberries in jars. I've got a jar on hand. Yeah, so kind of that kind of idea, so you get those nice big strawberries at the top of it. The strawberries that I'm not going to make the actual body of the jam out of, what I'm going to do is I'm going to steep those in sugar, so that will release some of the juice out of them, so they will what I've found is happening is when I've made it, they get the strawberries whole. The strawberries want to leach out some of their juice into the jam, and it waters the jam down. I want the jam to be kind of set, not fully set, but I want to stop some of that moisture coming out of the jam. So we're going to take some of that moisture out first by steeping them in sugar. That sugar will be sugar and juice that comes out of them will be some of the juice that we use to make the first batch of jam, which is going to be the whole jam thing that holds everything together. And waffling, I should just be cracking on. So I'll go through it all. I'll sort out the smaller strawberries and the disformed strawberries that need bits chopping off, and we'll take the stalks out of them, and then we're back when we've got a quarter and 3/4 separated out, and then we'll talk about that. We're going to use some pectin because I certainly want it to be nice and thick, and I think it'll need some lemon just for a bit of sharpness, and we're going to just use plain old sugar because we're going to add some pectin to it. Otherwise I would use pectin sugar, although I'm maybe kind of quite, I don't think I'll be able to use pectin sugar. You can buy sugar with pectin already in it. I don't think I'll be able to use that because I'm going to steep the strawberries in. But I'm waffling, I should be cracking on, and then you'll understand actually what I'm doing rather than me just explaining it really badly. Right, so we've been through the strawberries. There is about 1.8 kilos. So I've taken a quarter of the strawberries, which is 450 grams, and they are the smaller strawberries, and the strawberries that I kind of had, there was a little bit of softness on the fruit that I've cut off. Those are the ones that have gone in there. So in here we've got the bigger perfect ones. In there we've got the smaller imperfect ones, and that's what we're going to make the actual jam out of. So there's 450 grams in there. So because we need to steep these overnight in sugar, I'm slightly concerned that the bruised fruit and the smaller ones, like the imperfect ones, I don't want it to go bad overnight. So I'm going to add the sugar to that now. And the sugar, what that will do, will actually preserve the strawberries. So we don't need to worry about them becoming soft overnight. You don't necessarily have to do that, it's just that I'm a little bit concerned about those strawberries. And then we're going to put about, I think about 100 grams worth of extra sugar. That's about 100 grams. So I'm going to put 100 grams, just move that out of the way. I'm going to put 100 grams worth of sugar over these strawberries to steep them. And what will happen is the sugar will draw out some of the moisture from the strawberries. And then the juice that comes out of them will be sweet strawberry juice, and that's also what we're going to make the jam out of. But you'll see tomorrow. So they just need to be steeped in sugar overnight, just to draw out some of the moisture. Because if we were to put those strawberries straight into a jam now, lots of the moisture would want to leach out of them, and it would water the jam down, and it'd be quite thin, which is not what I want. I want to get rid of quite a lot of the moisture while the strawberries retain that shape, because I want like whole strawberries in the jam that I'm trying to make. This might not work again. I have had some thoughts, but we'll see how we go. Let's put sugar. So cover those, leave them overnight. I'll have to, no, I can use, I've got one. because we're all about the plastic waste, I'll use a shower cap over this so we're not creating plastic waste. So this in the fridge overnight. I'll look at it again in a couple of hours just to kind of see what's happening, and it might just need a bit of a shake around just so all the strawberries get completely covered and we get some of that moisture out. I'll just put a lid on that. That lid. So, not going to do anything with that today because we want the juice from that that's going to come out of those strawberries. We're going to add to that, and that's what we're going to make the jam out of. Okay, that's it. I'm sure. Yes, so that's it for overnight, 12 hours. Right, the fruit has macerated overnight, and as you can see, lots of liquid has come out. So, that liquid is going to go into there, and that's what we're going to also use to make the jam. So, we'll just drain it. Being careful with the fruit, because I want to keep it whole. Like that. That's going to drip through for a little while. So we'll start the jam making process, and we'll carry on letting that drip through, and then any liquid that collects in the bottom of there, we'll put that into the jam as it makes. Right. So I'm not that bothered about the fruit in here being broken up. I just want them for their jammy qualities, and we need some packet of pectin. So an 8-gram packet of pectin does, it says 800 grams worth of fruit, so certainly we're going to put a whole one of these in, and we might put some more in as well later on. I haven't just quite decided yet. So in with the pectin, and it's certainly going to need some lemon juice. So we'll put in 1 lemon juice to start with. It just needs that sharpness of the lemon just to offset some of that sweetness. That's that. So, feet underneath. Give it a mix around, and then we'll make some jam. Simple process of making jam in this bit. It's just a simple case of boiling up the fruit and the sugar and that liquid, and boiling it, and the pectin and the lemon, and boiling it until it forms a jam. So there is some more liquid coming out of that fruit there, which is fine, but I'll add that. I'll just keep adding that as we go along. That's okay. So that's pretty straightforward. Bring it up to the boil, and then simmer until it forms a jam. There is more liquid in there, so we need to evaporate that liquid off as it's cooking, but that's fine. And there's the extra sugar in there as well from the macerating fruit, but we don't want to waste that juice because it is strawberry flavoured, so it will improve the jam as we're going. So up to the boil, and then we'll make a jam out of that, which can take half an hour, but we're not in any rush. So we'll pause the video there, and we'll be back when the everything's melted and coming together, and we've evaporated off some of that liquid. Right, so coming up to the boil, just got to be careful with pans that you don't want the flame coming all the way up the side of the pan and burning the outside of the jam. So we'll just turn it down slightly, and then we'll cook that until it's started. The bubbles change the look, so they're kind of quite, I can't remember how they look, but I do. It's one of those things. I can never remember what they look like until I see them. So I kind of like, I know when bread's ready to be risen and it's ready to be knocked back. But anyway, so we'll cook that until we've reduced the liquid and the bubbles have kind of changed their appearance, and then we'll kind of know that the jam is ready and set, and then we'll be adding those to that. So no point adding that liquid just yet, that'll be fine. So, and then we'll also taste it and see if it needs any more if it needs any more lemon in it. But anyway, that's that. It'll take about half an hour, something like that. Easy peasy. Right, so that looks very jammy to me. So you can see how the bubbles have changed. Well, I can tell that's ready. So we'll turn it off. That's definitely going to set, is that? Right. Yeah, that's looking really thick. So the strawberries have almost kind of disappeared to nothing, which is fine. Do I need to puree them up? Should I? Should I get the blender in there and just puree those? Yes. Yes, I will puree those. Let's blend that. Because we're going to have to make the jam again. I want this to be smooth. So blend it in, we're on. I could have done it the other way around. Right, so and that'll set nice and solid. So now strawberries go in. And a bit of juice as well. And then we're just going to cook it slightly. So bring it up to the temperature and bring it up to the boil with the strawberries in. And then that'll just enough to cook the strawberries slightly. We don't want them breaking up. We just want to cook them. And then what will happen is they'll release some of the juice, hopefully most of the juice, out of them. Gently. And then we'll let that cool down, and then we'll pick the strawberries out tomorrow, and then we'll remake the juice that's in there into jam. So gentle heat, back up to the boil, just to cook the strawberries, and then we'll let it go cold overnight. So the jam and the strawberries has come back up to temperature, and the strawberries have softened. I don't want to cook the strawberries any more than that. So turn off the heat and allow that to go cold. As you can see already, the liquid has leached out of the strawberries and into the jam, which has thinned it down, which is fine. But if we were to jar it up now, we'd have kind of quite a thin, watery jam, which is not what I want. So we'll let this go cold, and then tomorrow we'll pick out the strawberries and we'll remake the liquid in there into a thick jam, and then combine it back all together. It's a bit of a faff and a bit of a long process, but this is going to make a delicious jam. Oh, do I need to taste? Oh, I should taste it, shouldn't I? Get an idea of, do we need to add some lemon to it tomorrow? So as you can see, it's quite watery, is that? It will thicken up. It will thicken up overnight as it cools, but it's still going to be quite a thin jam, and that's not what I want. So taste it. Yeah, probably need a lemon in that tomorrow. It just needs a little bit more acidity, and as we reduce it down as well, it will certainly need a little bit more acidity in it, just to kind of balance the sugar. But there we go. So we'll let that go cold, and then we'll put it in the fridge, and then it'll be fine for tomorrow. Strawberries and jam have now cooled. So You need to get those strawberries out of that liquid, and then we turn that liquid into a thicker jam by reducing it down. So carefully pick out the strawberries one by one, which is a faff. I really should rename my channel the faffing channel, but it's going to be worthwhile. So we pick the strawberries out, and then some of the liquid, we want to strain that liquid. The liquid's going to come out of them and collect on the plate underneath. So I'm going to strain the strawberries first, and then I'm going to make the jam once we've got a lot of that liquid, that thinner liquid, off the strawberries by straining it off. So just gently, we want them to keep the shape, that's what we really want to do. But just gently, and then we'll let them drain for a while, just to get the extra juice drained off them. And then we'll put that juice that was going to collect on the plate underneath, we'll put that back into here, and that's what we'll make the thicker jam out of. I'm sure there'll be an easier way to do this, but I'm not always about doing things the easy way. I don't often, the easy way is generally not the best way. All that rubbish about if you want to see get a job done quickly, give it to a lazy person and they'll find the easiest way to do it. I don't believe that. It's supposed to be a Bill Gates quote, and I don't think Bill Gates has ever worked with lazy people, because lazy people get someone else to do it for them. So I think that's a completely ridiculous thing to say, because I've worked with some lazy people and they just get other people to do their jobs for them. But anyway, maybe Bill Gates is working with a higher class of people than me. If you know me and you've worked with him in the past, I'm not talking about you. Actually, one of them's a really famous chef now. God, he was so lazy. I can't imagine he's changed. So, you can see what I'm doing. I'll have to put it on through another college strain, because I don't want to. Oh, I don't want to overfill that one, because if we start putting strawberries on top, it'll flatten them down, and that's not what I want to do. Actually, this strawberry juice has kind of stayed kind of quite thick, so I think I have high hopes. So I'll carry on. I'll strain it into something else, and then we'll be back later on when the juice has dripped away from it all. Strawberries have now drained, and I've taken that juice that was on the plate and I've just scraped that into the other juice, which we're going to reduce down. I've tasted it. I think it just needs a little bit of acidity in it, so I'm going to put a lemon juice in there, just to kind of change the acidity of it. I've just done, just to kind of cut the sweetness. It's going to get reduced down, and I just think it'll be a little bit too sweet. It's a personal thing. It's a personal thing. I want it to look nice and I want it to taste nice as well. Well, fundamentally I want it to taste nice. I think it's much more important that something tastes nice rather than looks nice. That's probably a metaphor for life there somewhere. That pulp can go in. Not that seed though, but the pulp can go in. No point wasting that. And it will cook down anyway. So this juice it wasn't too bad actually. At room temperature it wasn't that thin. I just want it to be thicker than it is. So cook it gently, not on too high heat, because we don't want to burn the sugar at this stage. We don't want to burn the jam at this stage because we put a lot of work into it. So that's about as much movement as it wants. Any more than that, it's going to rapidly boil. The flames are going to cook the side of the pan and they're going to burn the outside, which is not what we want. So we just want to evaporate off some of that moisture, and then we end up with a thicker jam, which is going to take, what, 20 minutes? 20 minutes, something like that. But I'll keep an eye on it because I'm going to be in the kitchen. So about 20 minutes, half an hour. No rush, no rush. And I've got some jars in the oven which are sterilising. Don't really know why I'm sterilising them, because we're going to sterilise this jam a bit further down the line. But anyway, just to make sure that we're not going to get any bugs or bacteria in the jars. I've cleaned them and I'm sterilising them in the oven. Don't need to do that because we're going to do something. As long as they're clean, I don't think we need to necessarily sterilise them because we're going to put them in a pan of water and kind of sterilise everything that way. But anyway, so this is where we are. This is going to reduce down, and then you'll see what it's like when I think it's just about the right kind of consistency. This jam is now ready. I can tell by the way it's bubbling, and it just feels and looks like it's going to set pretty solid. I've kept scraping down the sides as well, because there's a habit as things reduce, then you get a residue of jam. As things reduce down the pan, it leaves a residue. Just scrape that down so we don't kind of get any kind of burning on the side of the pan. And also that's kind of quite thick stuff, and then that reboils back into the jam and thickens it up as well, because you've got the moisture's evaporated off from it. So that's ready. We don't need to kind of do any test on that. I know that that's going to set pretty thick because of the colour as well. So it's darkened a lot, and just with the way it kind of moves and bubbles, that's going to set pretty solid. And so we'll look on there as well. So that's set pretty solid as that, and the way it drips. So this is the laborious part of me making jam. So I really should stop saying so much. So clean spoon, just sterilising a bit of hot water, which I am just sterilising the lids with. Don't know why I'm sterilising the lids, because we're going to sterilise it a different way. So how are we going to do this? Gently. This is how we're going to do this. Let's get rid of that spoon. And I want a fork as well. So a little bit of the jam in the bottom of the jar, like that. So it's nice and dark. Jam in the bottom of the jar, like that. That needs to live somewhere safe, so it's not going to make a mess. Can live just there. And then we're going to take some of these strawberries and we're going to plonk those into the jar, and then we're going to put some more of the jam in, and then another layer of strawberries. Give it a bit of a shake like that, and then we'll put another bit of jam in there like that, and then a few more strawberries, and kind of repeat the process. And I think I'm going to get about 2 in a small jar with the jam. So it doesn't make a lot of jam, this. And so not kind of only really worth doing if the strawberries are cheap, or if you're not that bothered about how much money you spend, you just want to do nice things. But these strawberries were end of the day strawberries and cheap. So, but you get the idea of what I'm doing. We don't need to do a full video. Lots of me doing this, because you get the idea. More strawberries, more jam, more strawberries, more jam, more strawberries, more jam, till we get to the top, and that's when we'll be back. Bit of a mess. As you can see though, how thick that jam has already started to want to set, and it's not cold yet. So hopefully that extremely set jam will compensate for the strawberries giving out a little bit of juice, just a little bit of juice as they cool. So these jars are not going to be sterile. That's not going to keep us that. There'll be a tiny amount of bacteria in there that will start to grow. So we need to sterilise them. But as you can see, doesn't that look good? Doesn't that look good? So we've made 3 jars. This one's got slightly less in. But how we're going to... there's just stickiness everywhere. So how we're going to sterilise them is pretty straightforward. Pan. Jars in the pan. and then I'm going to put some warm water in there. I'm going to bring it up to the boil, and then I'm going to slowly simmer it for an hour, and that will heat everything through, kill any bacteria that's in there, completely sterilise things, and then in fact I'll take all the bits of jam that I've got and I'll put it in that smaller jar as well, and then that'll completely sterilise everything after an hour, and then that jam will kind of keep indefinitely, and we'll be able to have a look at it. So and then we'll open up one of the jars tomorrow and kind of see what's kind of happened. So maybe not tomorrow, maybe the day after, but that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Do you need to see me put water in there and bring it up to the boil? Probably not, no. But that's what I'm going to do. I might show you at the very end, or when it comes up to the boil. But I've got other stuff to do. I've got some bread to break, and it's all, I want to go swimming. It's all just. I was going to have a weekend off, but oh no, I decided that I'd do lots of videos. But anyway, this is what we're going to do. Right, so hot water, slowly brought up to the boil. You just want to be careful when you're sterilising things this way. You don't want to bring them up to the boil too quickly, because you don't want there to be too much of a greater difference in the temperature of the water, the temperature of the glass, and the temperature of the innards of what's in the jar. So slowly up to the boil, and then just a slow simmer for 45 minutes, something like that, just to make sure there's ample temperature gets in there and kills any bacteria, yeast or anything like that that might just be in there. So you can tell it's ready because it's popped up there, it's firm. So the only danger now is the fruit always wants to float to the top. Can't really do anything about that. A little bit beyond the area of my expertise. So it's just a case of, as it cools, keep flipping it up and down, and then the fruit and jam kind of want to all become more evenly dispersed. A little bit hot. Anyway, get that out of the way. So turn upside down, keep doing that, and then hopefully everything will nicely mix. But it looks like the jam's pretty thick. That's the jam without any fruit in. So that's set really kind of quite solid. So hopefully the remaining liquid that's going to come out of the strawberries won't water the jam down too much and make it go too runny. It's never going to be thick like a jam anyway, because of the way we've made it and the water content of the strawberries. It's always going to leak out. It's going to be very difficult to kind of make it like a thick solid jam. But that's not what I was aiming for. Anyway, I didn't want a thick solid jam. I wanted something in between a compote and a jam. So we'll let those go cold, and then we'll crack one open tomorrow when they're fully cold and fully set. I'll keep turning them upside down, and then hopefully the strawberries will be a little bit more evenly dispersed throughout the jam. Fingers crossed. But anyway, there we go. Looks like it's going to be a success. Looks like it's going to be a success. Right. That's not so bad. It looks like it's a little bit watery. I just don't think I'm ever going to be able to get around that. But that's strange. Why has it done that? I mean, that's not bad, is that? That's kind of where I want it to be. I haven't got any bread to put it on. That's kind of where I want it to be. I think, let's pretend. What can we spread it on? I've got a biscuit. Well, I've got a biscotti. So pretend that's a bit of toast. And put that on there. It kind of does that. So it does. Strawberries are spreadable. It's delicious. It's It's crept. It's really fruity. So with jam, you can end up like cooking the fruit flavour out of the jam. So it's just like sugary, fruity-ish thing, but that's kept its flavour. There's that. That's kept its flavour. Go back in there. So it certainly benefits from being in the fridge. At room temperature, it'd be thinner than that, and I wouldn't want it any thinner than that. But it's more of a compote than a jam. I don't think it's ever going to be exactly how I envisioned it, but that jam's certainly a lot thicker than it has been in the past. So that process that I did this time certainly works. Like double the amount of pectin works. I suppose I could do the process again and cook the strawberries and reduce the jam down again, and then put the strawberries in it, and it would. So the strawberries would give out less juice. But I think that's where I want it to be. Yeah, it's really nice, but it's more like a compote than jam. So it is really nice. I mean, it's really decadent. Yeah, I'm happy. I might have another play around in the future, but I think that's just about where I want it to be. The strawberries are going to float to the top of that jam, but I'm quite happy with that. I'm happy with that. There we go. A success.